This young master has a fortune of billions, but he has no interest in women. Faced with blind dates arranged by his family, no matter how young, beautiful, or elegant the women are, he remains unmoved, leaving after less than a minute. Today, the Nat had just finished a blind date when he saw a love scandal about his cousin Ray. This cousin, who works in the entertainment industry, is constantly causing trouble, making his manager want to quit. In order to not damage the company's image, the Nat had to personally step in to help his cousin resolve the mess. He went to the film set where the actress was working and asked a staff member where the female lead was. The staff member pointed to the woman in black, saying that she often causes trouble. The Nat, hearing this, looked around and indeed spotted a woman in black. But due to a misunderstanding, he mistook the martial arts stunt double, named Veena, for the female lead. The Nat was about to approach her when it suddenly started pouring rain. They both ran to an awning to take shelter. Unexpectedly, Veena slipped and fell backward. Seeing this, the Nat quickly reached out to catch her. This encounter was familiar, like something out of a romantic drama. The two of them locked eyes, seemingly about to kiss, when a clap of thunder sounded, startling the Nat and causing him to let go, making Veena fall to the ground. Veena was very angry at Thanat's forever single move, but she didn't say much. However, the Nat kept circling around her, as if he were looking at a gorilla in a zoo. Veena, still bewildered, asked if he knew her. The Nat didn't answer her question, but instead stated directly that he would take her to meet the superstar Ray. Veena's eyes lit up when she heard this. She couldn't even believe her ears and asked again. It turned out she was a huge fan of Ray, so meeting her idol was her biggest wish. The Nat, without saying much, pulled her away from the film set. On the way, Ray called, saying he was on the 33rd floor, and asking his cousin to bring the person up. But the Nat has a severe case of claustrophobia and can't take elevators. Veena found it strange and asked if he had a problem. Not wanting to reveal this, the Nat had to lie, saying that his clothes were custom-made in Italy and therefore weren't worthy of this elevator. Veena thought he was ridiculous, rolled her eyes, and closed the elevator doors. The Nat had no choice but to run up to the 33rd floor using the stairs. So exhausted he almost fainted. When the Nat had calmed down a bit, he finally addressed the main issue with Veena. The Nat, not seeing his cousin there, wanted to reveal his true colors, wanting Veena to know when to back off and not get involved with his cousin anymore. The Nat thought that compared to other people, she was really quite ordinary, and Ray wasn't just dating one person. Veena, hearing this, wasn't convinced. She asserted that she was also very talented in this field. The Nat curiously asked her what she was best at. Veena immediately said she was best at chains, ropes, cliffs, and especially in cars. At that time, the Nat misunderstood, thinking about various sexual positions. He then asked her if those photos were leaked. Wouldn't that be terrifying? Veena, hearing this, finally understood what the Nat was thinking. The two of them were on completely different frequencies. Seeing that the Nat had mistaken her for the female lead, Veena proactively clarified her identity, saying she was only the martial arts stunt double for the female lead. Just as she finished speaking, Veena received a phone call from her boss, telling her to quickly return to the set for filming. Veena hung up and asked the Nat if he wanted to meet the female lead. When he agreed, Veena immediately took him there at breakneck speed. The Nat then realized that the in the car she mentioned was this kind. When he met the female lead, the Nat generously wrote a check, telling her to stay away from his cousin. The actress, seeing how much money he had, switched her target to him. The Nat, seeing this, went along with it, saying that he actually wanted to invite her to dinner, but the recent rumors had given him a headache. To snag this new gold mine, the actress quickly denied her relationship with Ray. The Nat, seeing that she had taken the bait, said he hoped that at the press conference tomorrow, she would explain this matter clearly. The actress, hearing this, hastily agreed to handle it properly. When he left the film set, he happened to see Veena practicing. Veena's graceful and agile martial arts movements immediately caught Thanat's attention. He stared at Veena, not blinking, and gradually became mesmerized. As a result, he accidentally bumped into a staff member carrying drinks. The props person, wanting to avoid the spill, instinctively let go of the rope he was holding. White feather props immediately sprayed out, slowly falling from above Veena. At this moment, she looked like an angel, and the Nat couldn't take his eyes off her. Veena also noticed his gaze. The two of them locked eyes, and it was a while before the Nat came back to his senses. A man who had always been indifferent to women, the Nat now felt small ripples in his heart. The Nat waited for Veena to finish work at the film set, and curiously asked if she was a stunt double, because she looked very professional. At this point, Vina didn't have the energy to talk to the gnat and turned to leave. The gnat immediately grabbed her hand, but he accidentally grabbed her injured arm, causing Vina to wince in pain and pull him down. The gnat couldn't help but curse at her, calling her cruel. But when he saw that Vina's arm was bleeding, the gnat rushed forward to look, worriedly scolding her for going to work with such an injury. Then, he used the back of his hand to touch Vina's forehead and neck, realizing she had a fever. He immediately wanted to take Vina to the hospital. However, Vina stubbornly refused to go. Seeing her being so stubborn, the gnat directly picked her up in a domineering CEO style and carried her to the hospital. The gnat noticed that Vina was still frowning in her sleep, so he gently stroked her eyebrows. Not long after, Vina's boss showed up, scolding her for getting hurt and not telling the group. Vina just kept apologizing, saying she was okay and would be out of the hospital soon. Only then was the boss reassured and left. Vina was planning to take the bus home, but the gnat insisted on driving her. At this moment, Ray came looking for the gnat. Vina saw her idol and was super excited, but she didn't dare to just go up and talk to him. But surprise, Ray recognized her and even called her name. Vina was so happy she felt like she could fly. She couldn't believe Ray still remembered her. It turned out they had met before during a film shoot. Ray even complimented Vina, saying she was really good at martial arts scenes. Getting praised by a big star made Vina incredibly happy. From that day on, she became a loyal fan of Ray. Vina's image was stuck in Thanat's mind, like she was everywhere, whether he was at home or on the golf course. The gnat couldn't stand it anymore, so he told his secretary to look up Vina's information. He really wanted to see her. A little later, he happened to see Vina interviewing martial arts actors. The gnat saw her smile through the glass and started to feel something. He hesitated for a bit, but finally called Vina. But before he could say more than a couple of words, Vina got angry and hung up on him. And a powerful chairman like the gnat, how could he stand being treated like that? He got angry, used his money to get rid of the people who were interviewing, so he could see Vina quickly. Seeing the gnat standing in front of her, Vina was very surprised. The other stunt performers asked the gnat what he was best at. The gnat, not being humble, said he was best at making money. When Vina heard this, she thought he was ridiculous, feeling like he was just there to cause trouble. Vina angrily pulled the gnat outside, asking him what he really wanted. The gnat could only lie, saying he came to collect the hospital bill. He had been kind enough to take Vina to the hospital, and yet she hadn't said a word of thanks. Vina suddenly felt a little embarrassed and asked the gnat how much the hospital bill was. The gnat pretended not to hear, asking her instead if her wound had scabbed over yet. Vina thought he was really weird and started to leave, but the gnat grabbed her hood and pulled her back. After that, he checked her wound and offered to take her to the hospital to get treatment for the scar. Vina, hearing this, froze. Maybe it had been a long time since anyone had cared about her like that, and she suddenly felt a little touched. Early the next morning, Vina went to the mall to film, but the director was giving her a hard time, making her do one move over 10 times. However, the director still wasn't satisfied and made her do it again. Vina's old wound started acting up, and she could only grit her teeth and bear it. The gnat, who was upstairs, saw this and suddenly felt a pang of sympathy, so he went downstairs to stand up for Vina, telling the director not to make things difficult. It turned out he was the owner of this mall, and also the sponsor of the film. The director quickly bowed and apologized to the gnat, saying he just wanted to make the film look better. The gnat bluntly told him that the reason he could film there was because of Vina, because he was a fan of hers. The director was very surprised to hear this. At this point, the gnat used his money power again, inviting the whole film crew out to eat, and then taking Vina alone to the second floor. After that, the gnat had prepared a candlelight dinner for her. However, Vina wasn't grateful at all, but angrily questioned him about why he hadn't revealed his identity before. The gnat said she hadn't asked him, which left Vina speechless. The gnat was about to have someone bring up the food when Vina cut him off. She frankly said that she wasn't in the mood to play games with rich people, and she couldn't afford to play, and asked the gnat not to bother her anymore. After saying that, she was about to leave, but the gnat quickly got up and blocked her, saying he didn't have any bad intentions, he just wanted to be friends with her. Vina immediately refused, saying that their social standings were too different. The gnat was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, getting whatever he wanted. Vina, on the other hand, had to struggle, work hard, and say sorry thousands of times a day just to survive. The Nat would never understand her hardships. Vina didn't want to say anything more. She took some money and put it on the table, saying that this was for the hospital bill he had paid for her last time. After paying the money, she said that from now on, they were done. People from two different worlds could never be friends. The Nat couldn't understand why she was so resistant to him. That evening, the Nat looked at the hospital bill money that Vina had returned to him and realized that it wasn't enough. That way, he had an excuse to see Vina again. Early the next morning, the Nat showed up in front of Vina with the bill, saying that she still hadn't paid the hospital bill in full. Vina thought he was ridiculous. She had never seen a chairman so shameless. She said that she would definitely pay it all, and then left the break room. The Nat was still holding a gift he hadn't had a chance to give her. He decided to put it in Vina's locker. But when he opened it, the Nat couldn't believe his eyes, as everything inside was old and worn out. He immediately called his secretary, bought everything from clothes to new shoes, and had them brought there. Vina came back after practice, saw these things and got angry. She found the Nat and asked him if he had insurance. When he said yes, the Nat was suddenly thrown down by Vina. But when he fell, he pulled Vina down with him, and they ended up in an intimate situation. Just as the Nat was about to kiss the person in his heart, someone burst in and interrupted. The atmosphere became awkward. Vina quickly pushed the Nat away and stood up, so flustered she didn't know how to explain. That night, the Nat drove the two of them home. Seeing where they lived, he was shocked. He had lived in a big house since he was a child, and had never imagined that people lived in a place like this. Early the next morning, Vina saw Thanat's car from afar. This guy was really persistent. She walked over and asked the Nat what he really wanted. Were rich people really that free? Or did he like her? Thanat's face got hot when he heard this. He said she was both rude and impolite, and besides, she didn't have the looks, so how could he like her? Vina angrily asked him why he kept bothering her like this. The Nat got angry and blamed it on her bothering him. Her image kept popping into his head inexplicably, making him unable to stop thinking about her. Vina was stunned to hear this confession and couldn't speak. However, the Nat realized the gap between them was too big. They basically couldn't be together, and after saying that, he drove away in a daze. It was also the first time Vina had encountered a problem with love, and she didn't know what to do. So she told her best friend about it. Unexpectedly, her friend was very supportive, telling her if she liked him, she should just try dating him and see. This encouragement from her friend woke Vina up. She gathered all her courage and called the Nat, saying she wanted to pay off the rest of the hospital bill. The Nat, although very happy inside, still acted cold, saying that he was very busy these days, but he could reluctantly meet with her once. Vina almost burst out laughing when she heard this, and then said that the time and place of the meeting would be decided by him. After hanging up, both of them smiled secretly. The Nat quickly ended the meeting ahead of schedule, saying that he suddenly had something important to deal with, and then immediately left the meeting room. The shareholders looked at each other, completely bewildered, because the project they were discussing was worth tens of millions. Yet the Nat said he wouldn't discuss it anymore. Meanwhile, the Nat was jumping for joy, rushing home to change into a new suit. However, he still felt a little nervous and anxious. That evening, Vina showed up at the meeting spot. The Nat was so nervous he didn't know what to say. Vina was also feeling awkward, so she said she needed to go to the restroom. It was at this moment that the Nat noticed Vina's tattered bag, and it made him feel unhappy. When Vina came back, the Nat angrily confronted her. He knew the thing about paying was just an excuse, that they were here on a date. Why couldn't she dress up a little? Was she really so poor she couldn't afford a decent bag? Hearing these accusations, Vina felt ashamed. She put the money down and left the restaurant. The Nat went back home and tossed and turned all night, unable to sleep. He felt a bit of regret for speaking so harshly, but if he didn't say those things, he didn't see any other way to end his feelings for Vina. The distance between them felt like a deep chasm, impossible to cross. But fate is a funny thing. Just as the Nat was forcing himself to forget Vina, they ran into each other a few days later at the mall. Turns out, Thanat's mall was having a promotion, and Vina had accidentally won a prize. She didn't really want to go claim it, but her best friend really needed a laptop. Unable to resist her friend's pleading, Vina had to grit her teeth and go, not expecting to run into the Nat. As soon as he saw her, he questioned why she was here, saying all the employees knew about their relationship and were gossiping like crazy. Vina was about to retort when the Nat cut her off, saying how he had invited the film crew out for a meal and prepared a meal for her, but she refused. making him lose face with his employees. And now, this whole thing has spread all over. Hearing these insults, Vina was completely disappointed in the gnat. To provoke him, Vina said she was nothing special, just a poor, ordinary, money-loving woman. If the gnat felt embarrassed knowing her, he could tell everyone she was just an easy woman, and that they were just messing around. These words completely enraged the gnat. He angrily dragged Vina into the mall, threw expensive clothes on the floor, and told her to put them on. Because the person he messes around with has one condition: they absolutely cannot be poor and wretched. Vina angrily turned to leave, but the gnat pulled her into a fitting room, forcing her to put on those clothes. Vina didn't understand why he was humiliating her like this. The gnat, being stubborn, finally blurted out his true feelings, admitting that he wasn't just playing around with her. He wanted them to explore each other's worlds to find common ground and be together. After saying that, the gnat couldn't take it anymore and ran outside. Because he suffers from severe claustrophobia, being in the fitting room for so long was already his limit. Vina, at that moment, squatted down and started crying. She didn't understand why she loved a man with such a huge social gap. Just now, the gnat had said Vina wasn't qualified to receive the prize, but immediately told his secretary to bring the prize to her. Vina, seeing this, got angry and after thinking it over, decided to return the prize. The gnat knew she would come looking for him, and nervously started praying. He even prepared tea and snacks, wanting to talk things out clearly with Vina. But they hadn't even exchanged a few words before they started arguing. Vina didn't want to say anything more to the gnat, put the prize in his hands and turned to leave. Unexpectedly, the gnat slammed the prize hard onto the ground. Vina was completely shocked. Truly, the wealthy are different. No matter how expensive something is, if they don't like it, they can throw it away like trash. The gnat saw her continue to leave and quickly hugged her. He even took her motorcycle keys and threw them into the bushes. The gnat held Vina tightly, saying he just wanted to talk things out clearly with her. Vina struggled, believing there was nothing to talk about since they belonged to two different worlds. At that moment, Thanet's mother appeared in front of them. She looked Vina up and down, and then told the gnat that this woman was the reason he was causing trouble at the mall. Then, she sarcastically compared Vina to street food, tasty, but likely to give you a stomachache. Hearing these insults, Vina was very angry. She firmly told Thanet's mother that she wouldn't have any kind of relationship with the gnat and left. The gnat felt a little guilty, but with his mother, he didn't know what else to do. Early the next morning, Thanet's secretary came to him, saying that the first prize of the event at the mall was a week-long trip to Japan. But coincidentally, the first prize winner was pregnant, and the second prize winner was elderly. So it was Vina's turn, the third prize winner. The gnat had an idea because this was a good opportunity for them to be together. A few days later, Vina arrived in Japan. Getting out and relaxing without spending her own money felt great. But before she could be happy for long, she saw the gnat walking toward her from a distance. Vina didn't expect they would meet here. It seemed she couldn't escape him. But this time they didn't argue. They went to eat Kobe beef together, rode the subway together, and looked at the sea together. At that moment, the gnat wished the world only consisted of him and her. Vina didn't respond to Thanet's words, just said it was getting late, and they should go back. Because Vina knew better than anyone that they would never be able to be together. On the subway back to the hotel, Vina fell asleep. When she woke up, she realized the train had stopped. At that moment, a man in a firefighter uniform suddenly appeared beside her. Vina saw the burned scar on the man's hand, which looked just like her deceased father's. Vina was moved and quickly followed the man off the train. The gnat was also awakened by the noise. Seeing Vina get off the train, he could only follow. But when they got off the train, the man had disappeared without a trace. Seeing Vina frowning and looking around, the gnat didn't understand what she was looking for. At that moment, Vina turned her head and saw the figure of a firefighter flash by in a house on the side of the road. She quickly chased after him, but didn't see anyone. Just as Vina was confused, the firefighter's figure flashed by a window. Without thinking, she chased after the mysterious man again. The gnat sighed, not understanding why Vina was acting so strangely, and neither of them noticed the sign on the house, which read Secret Garden. At this point, Vina chased the man deep into the forest, but still couldn't catch up. The gnat asked her what she was looking for, but Vina didn't answer, only muttered that the person had disappeared again, and with that she burst into tears. Seeing Vina so heartbroken, the gnat didn't ask anything more, and just wiped away her tears. Then he turned his head and saw a restaurant sign, and thought about taking Vina to get something to eat, and rest for a while. Inside the restaurant, the lights were dim, and there wasn't a single customer. There was only a petite owner. She smiled and told them to wait a moment, and the food would be right out. Vina curiously looked at the flower-filled wine bottle on the table, then picked up a glass ball and held it in front of her eyes. Just as the owner went out to get something, Vina saw the firefighter standing behind a curtain. She excitedly stood up immediately, but in the blink of an eye, the firefighter disappeared without a trace. At that moment, the owner brought the food, also giving each of them a flower wine bottle with different colors. Vina felt that this wine was a bit strange, but didn't say anything more. After eating and drinking to their fill, they were about to leave when the owner gave them another flower wine bottle, saying they could drink it on the way. Vina didn't think much of it and happily accepted it. When the two of them left the restaurant, they realized it was already late at night. No matter how quickly they hurried, they wouldn't make the last train. Helpless, they had to sleep at the train station. Seeing the gnat looking worried made Vina feel quite surprised. The quiet atmosphere around them quickly made them both let their guard down, and their feelings gradually warmed. The gnat asked Vina if she would like to live in seclusion with him. They would go to a place where no one could find them, just the two of them. Vina, hearing this, thought, "Isn't this just being a mistress without a title?" She angrily hit the gnat, saying that if he dared to say another word, she would break his leg. The gnat was very upset, saying this was the best way he could think of. He hoped she would believe him. He just wanted them to understand each other better. The next morning, the two woke up to discover that their bodies had been swapped. Seeing the other person transformed into themselves, they were both stunned. They were flustered and didn't know what to do. The gnat carefully recalled what had happened yesterday. The strangest things were that restaurant and the unnamed flower wine. He felt there must be some connection between the two, and dragged Vina back to find that restaurant. But when they arrived, they discovered that there was only a temple there, with no restaurant at all. Even the big tree next to the restaurant was nowhere to be found. The gnat wondered what had happened. Coincidentally, there was a man sweeping the yard. The gnat went up to him and asked if there were any big trees here. The man said he had lived here since he was a child and had never seen any big trees. Vina, hearing this, burst into tears. She didn't want to turn into a man. The gnat could only comfort her, saying that crying was useless and that when something happened, they had to try to solve it. Vina looked hesitant, saying that actually, she needed to pee a little. Helpless, the gnat had to take Vina to the men's restroom and guide her on how to use it. Vina felt disgusted and wanted to give up, but the gnat quickly stopped her, patiently advising Vina not to be embarrassed, to bravely accept reality, since he didn't want to get kidney stones. After Vina finished going to the bathroom, the two of them had to face the same problem: how to swap back. Vina calmly thought carefully. In movies, it seemed they always had to kiss to swap back bodies. Then she said this method shyly. The gnat said, "Well, what are we waiting for? Let's try it." But Vina was a bit embarrassed, picked up her jacket, and was about to leave. The gnat quickly chased after her. Without saying a word, he kissed Vina, but nothing changed. The two of them had to give up for now and find a place to stay. That evening, the gnat went out alone to drink away his sorrows, unexpectedly getting harassed by 3 drunk men. Vina, worried that he hadn't come back, went out to look for him, unexpectedly witnessing this scene. She originally wanted to watch the gnat get teased, but seeing the drunk men about to grope her body, Vina rushed in, repeatedly knocking down the 3 drunk men, then seized the opportunity to drag the gnat away. But the two of them ran too fast, causing the gnat to suddenly feel a bit short of breath. Vina immediately realized that her asthma was acting up. She told the gnat to calm down and breathe to her rhythm. Sure enough, not long after, the gnat's breathing gradually returned to normal. Vina said that she had asthma, so if she breathes too fast, she has to stop and rest. The gnat, hearing this, was very surprised. She has asthma, but still works as a stunt actress. Isn't she afraid of dying? Vina then explained that this was the career she wanted to pursue. After that, the two could only try to learn each other's habits and temporarily pretend to be the other person. The gnat took out his family tree and introduced each person to Vina. The others were fine, but his uncle needed special attention because he was always eyeing the president's position. Vina obediently nodded, trying to memorize the entire family tree. The gnat asked her in return if there was anyone in her family he needed to be warned about. Vina said a series of names, but they were all her friends. When the gnat asked about her family, Vina's expression suddenly darkened. She recounted that from childhood to adulthood, her only relative was her father. but he passed away when she was 17. Every time she was so tired she couldn't breathe, she would think of her father. He told her that she must learn to be patient, that opportunity is as important as air. The gnat felt very sorry after hearing this. He didn't expect her life to be so difficult. Compared to Vina, he really lived in a fairy tale world. That night, the two decided to go to a hot spring. Vina went to buy lingerie and taught the gnat how to wear it. It must be said that this proficient method looked very professional. Not only that, but Vina also told the gnat that when taking off clothes, he absolutely mustn't look around. The gnat had originally felt that women were so bothersome, but when he took off his clothes, he noticed that Vina's shoulders and back were covered in scars of all sizes. At this moment, he truly understood how much Vina loved this job. Watching her try to teach him the moves, Thanat's heart was in turmoil, but mostly it was pity. He stepped forward, covered Vina's eyes, and gently kissed her lips. In that moment, their souls seemed to be connected. The gnat suddenly felt grateful for this soul swap, because only in this way could he truly enter Vina's world. Early the next morning, the two flew back to the country. As soon as they left the airport, they met Thanat's mother. Vina suddenly felt a little flustered. Even though she had prepared herself, she was still afraid of being exposed. Thanat's mother marched forward, telling her secretary to take her son away first. She wanted to talk to Vina in private. The gnat had to get in the car with his mother. Unexpectedly, Thanat's mother wasn't polite at all. She immediately insulted Vina and forced her to leave her son. The gnat, hearing these words, couldn't believe his mother could be so cruel. Fortunately, Vina didn't hear these words, and they weren't in a convertible. Suddenly, the gnat felt a little short of breath and couldn't bear to argue with his mother. Fortunately, they soon arrived at Vina's house. He wondered when they would be able to swap back bodies. When the gnat arrived at Vina's house, he couldn't help but feel uncomfortable. As a president, he had never lived in such a dilapidated house. While the gnat was having a headache, a woman suddenly rushed from behind and tackled him to the ground. It turned out to be Vina's roommate and best friend. She dressed sloppily, asked the gnat if he had brought her a gift. The gnat didn't dare to look directly at her, only telling her to find it in his suitcase. At the same time, Vina had also arrived at Thanat's house. She looked in amazement at the decor in the villa. The gnat was truly a person living in a fairy tale. Living in such a big house, she wouldn't even dare dream of it. The next day, Vina had to go to the mall to work in Thanat's place, feeling very worried. Seeing the employees at the door bow to her, she also bowed in return. This shocked the employees. Vina continued to go to the second floor of the mall and discovered an old man waiting for her. After thinking for a while, she guessed that he must be Thanat's uncle. So Vina politely stepped forward to greet him. Thanat's sly old uncle had discovered that the gnat suffered from claustrophobia. So he deliberately wanted to trigger his condition to force the gnat to give up the chairman position. He thought that if the gnat walked up the stairs, he would have to climb many floors to get to the meeting room, which would definitely be very tiring and would cancel the meeting. But Vina said there was no need to cancel the meeting, and they would take the elevator up. Thanat's uncle was extremely surprised, wondering if his information was fake. During the meeting, the gnat called Vina, telling her to take the document folder out and absolutely not to sign it. Vina hung up the phone, hurriedly lied that she was feeling a bit uncomfortable and had to go home for a while, that the documents would be reviewed carefully later, and left the meeting room. The uncle saw that the gnat didn't take this meeting seriously and was so angry that his face turned pale. At this time, the gnat came to pick up Vina, complaining that Vina's way of dressing was so outdated, ruining his handsome image. What he wore didn't matter anymore. What mattered was that the gnat had to go to work for him tomorrow, because Vina had heard that a large film crew was recruiting stunt actors. However, the gnat said that he wanted to take 2 more days off to have time to adapt. Vina threatened that if he didn't go, she would make sure he couldn't go. But the gnat wasn't afraid at all, saying that she had never actually attacked, just threatened people. While the two were joking around, Thanat's mother suddenly appeared at the door. She angrily scolded the gnat, asking what this lowly woman had over the rich young ladies she introduced to him. The gnat instinctively called out Mom, but Thanat's mother cursed her for being shameless and repeated what she had warned her about. The gnat tried to explain, but she didn't allow it, and even kicked him out of the house. She had no idea that the woman was actually her son. The gnat looked worriedly at Vina. Although these words were spoken to him, the person who was most hurt was still Vina. How could she not care about these insults? The gnat didn't know how to comfort her. He could only quietly sit next to Vina by the riverbank, waiting for her to heal her wounded heart. Early the next morning, Veena had a very important job that she needed Thanat's help to complete, but she was a little worried, so she went with him to the film set. Coincidentally, the male lead was Ray, and the director was his ex-girlfriend named Ida. Ray deliberately praised Veena's beauty in front of her. Veena was very happy, but after smiling for a moment, she remembered that she was the Nat now. The Nat wasn't patient enough and turned to leave. Ida was very surprised. She didn't expect a stunt actor to dare to be so arrogant. But fortunately, the Nat excellently completed the task at the crucial moment. But when filming Ray's scene, Ida was continuously dissatisfied, and the two argued. Ray remembered that the breakup was also like this. Ida had deliberately made trouble and abandoned him mercilessly. Ray was so angry that he stopped acting, forcing his manager to desperately persuade him to return to film. The Nat saw this and told him to calm down, to leave other matters for later, that now the most important thing was to find a replacement male lead. If you can't find one in the country, look abroad. After saying that, the Nat left. After that statement, the manager instinctively nodded, then realized that something wasn't right. Why did he have to listen to a stunt actor? That evening, the Nat and Veena went home together. Unexpectedly, Thanat's mother was secretly following them. After her son left, Thanat's mother got out of the car, arrogantly took out a check, and told Veena to leave her son. The Nat saw his mother's actions and felt ridiculous. Perhaps this wasn't the first time she had done this. How could his feelings be measured by money? He returned the check to his mother, saying that there was no need to waste words anymore, that he and Veena would never break up. After saying that, he turned to leave. Thanat's mother was so angry that she gnashed her teeth. Veena returned home and saw Ray feeling down, so she had unilaterally lent Ray the car that the Nat loved the most for him to go out and relax. When the Nat found out about this, he was so angry he almost fainted. He couldn't even bear to drive that car, yet she lent it to Ray. The two argued for a while, then hurriedly drove off to find Ray. Unexpectedly, at this moment, a storm broke out, and the Nat suddenly felt a severe pain in his head. And immediately after that, the two swapped bodies again, and finally returned to normal. The Nat and Veena were overjoyed, feeling that it was so good not to have to pretend to be someone else. The two couldn't help but hug each other tightly, although they had been together every day before. Only they knew how difficult it was to finally have this hug. After that, the two exchanged a sweet kiss after truly understanding each other. After the two separated, Veena hurried home, but when she opened the door, she couldn't help but be surprised. Her dilapidated house had been magnificently decorated by the Nat, and he had even installed air conditioning. At this moment, her best friend came out of the bathroom. Veena immediately hugged her, making her extremely surprised. Veena was immediately worried, asking if she had groped her these past few days. Her best friend said no. It's just that Veena had been very strange lately, always sleeping on the sofa, and not letting her dress provocatively at home. Veena felt relieved after hearing this. At this moment, she turned her head and saw the bag on the cabinet and asked if her best friend had repaired it for her. Her best friend immediately denied it, saying that Veena had repaired the bag herself. Veena froze, remembering the last time she saw Thanat's finger injured, and asked him what had happened. Turns out it was because he was repairing the bag for her. Veena was very touched. She didn't expect this man to be cold on the outside, but soft-hearted on the inside. The next day, Veena attended a 10-day intensive training course. Because a foreign director was coming to choose actors, she really wanted to get this opportunity. To practice the moves well, she had to eat and sleep with the other brothers at the training camp. When the Nat found out about this, he thought it wasn't right for her to live with a bunch of men like that. He hurriedly brought his luggage to the film set to keep an eye on her. Veena saw the Nat and was startled, hurriedly apologized to the boss and pushed the Nat out. The Nat said that he was just worried and wanted to come to the film set to protect her. Veena felt that he was ridiculous. She didn't need him to come here to protect her. At this moment, the boss came out, saying that the film set absolutely didn't allow irrelevant people inside. Seeing that the Nat was about to argue with the boss, Veena hurriedly stepped in to mediate, saying that after training, she would come to find the Nat, but on the condition that he didn't disturb their training anymore. After saying that, she pulled the boss away. The Nat knew that the result would be like this, so he had prepared a second plan. Early the next morning, a lot of new supplies appeared on the training ground. While the boss was confused by this, the Nat swaggered into the training ground, and his second plan was to use money and become the sponsor for the boss. Not only that, to prevent Veena from having an asthma attack. The Nat even called medical staff. So now he could stay at the training ground with dignity to be close to Veena. In the evening, the Nat wandered around but couldn't find a place to sleep, so he decided to go to Veena's room. But the trainer warned him that that was where the women slept. With no other choice, the Nat woke up the man on the sofa and asked him to let him sleep on the sofa because his back hurt from sleeping on the ground. Because of his status as director, the man had to give up his spot. At this moment, Veena secretly looked at the Nat lying on the sofa. Seeing that the man was willing to sacrifice for her, she felt extremely touched. The next day, it wasn't even dawn yet, and everyone had already woken up to prepare for training. Veena saw the Nat was still sleeping, so she directly pulled him up and took him to training. However, the Nat had never had to suffer like this, so he collapsed after only running a short distance. The trainer, who didn't like him, came over to provoke him. After the training, the trainer told everyone to gather for a meeting. Seeing the Nat messing around next to him, he told the Nat to go cook. When everyone saw the delicacies on the table, they were stunned. The trainer said that the Nat must have used money to buy them, and the Nat didn't hesitate to admit that he was rich. This made him furious. So, while eating, the trainer immediately provoked the Nat to a drinking contest. The Nat definitely couldn't back down with the girl he loved sitting right next to him. The two directly grabbed straws and started drinking. At this time, the assistant came to find the Nat. Veena hurriedly told the assistant to advise him not to drink anymore. But unexpectedly, the assistant went over to encourage the Nat not to lose to him, that he had to win. After the Nat won, he was so excited that he jumped onto the table. The trainer felt that he lost the drinking contest, so he couldn't lose the dancing contest. So he jumped right onto the table. Then the two started performing. After eating, the Nat gallantly volunteered to do the dishes. However, when he saw the pile of dishes, he suddenly didn't know what to do. A chairman like him had never done these things. The Nat hurriedly called his assistant to ask, but after hearing that he had to use hot water and soap to wash the dishes, he felt that washing the dishes was too troublesome. So he directly told the assistant to send a helper. Unexpectedly, Veena happened to overhear. Seeing this, the Nat told the assistant that he didn't need a helper anymore, but told her to help him. Veena turned to run away, but he grabbed her and pulled her into his arms. Two hearts that were already attracted to each other were now slowly getting closer. After washing the pile of dishes, the Nat saw that she was preparing to go out, and asked her where she wanted to go. After learning that Veena wanted to go listen to the new song by her idol Bai, he directly pulled her over, telling her to sit here and not go anywhere. Veena immediately said that she was just going to meet his younger brother, and that she also had the day off today. Then she got up to run away, but the Nat picked her up and laid her on the sofa. Veena struggled to escape, but was held even tighter. The two were stuck together like that. She was also completely touched by his sincerity. Finally, they were together. On the other side, Thanat's mother was looking at pictures in her phone. Her expression immediately changed. Because the Nat hadn't gone to work for many days, the company's projects were delayed again and again. A lot of documents needed his signature, and the other shareholders were also a bit dissatisfied. The Nat had to go back to handle it. The next day, while training, Veena looked around but couldn't find him. She felt very strange not having the Nat there. While training, she kept looking for him. The trainer saw that she was so distracted and told her to pay attention, then announced that today's training was over. At this time, Ray happened to ask Veena to go to dinner. He had just released a new song and wanted to hear the real opinions of fans. Veena was a very good choice. The two then chatted very happily. After finishing, Ray took Veena home, unexpectedly seeing Thanat's mother's car parked downstairs. Ray immediately felt that something was wrong and hurriedly called his cousin. But the Nat was in a meeting at this time. Moreover, he didn't trust Ray, so he didn't answer the phone. With no other choice, Ray had to go upstairs himself to block Thanat's mother. But it was too late. Thanat's mother not only verbally insulted Veena, but also slammed Veena's father's picture onto the ground. Then she shouted that someone who could raise a lowly daughter like her must not be anything good either. Veena swallowed her bitterness and hurriedly picked up her father's picture. Ray heard his aunt's harsh words and felt very sorry for Veena. He advised his aunt to watch her words. Thanat's mother gave face to her nephew and angrily left. Veena hugged her father's picture and burst into tears. Her father was an honorable firefighter. He had sacrificed himself while saving people, not a useless person like Thanat's mother said. In Veena's heart, her father was the best person in the world. This time, Thanat's mother had truly crossed the line. Her best friend also felt that Thanat's mother was going too far and hurriedly called Thanat's secretary. When the Nat found out about this, he immediately stopped the meeting and ran to Vina's house. Her best friend angrily scolded the Nat, then told him that Vina wasn't home. The Nat felt both worried and blamed himself. He searched for Vina everywhere, but couldn't find her. Vina had gone to her father's grave to cry and didn't return home until late at night. The Nat searched around and returned to Vina's house. Seeing the lights on, he hurriedly ran over and knocked on the door. Vina heard the knocking and fearfully curled up in the corner. She didn't dare to open the door and didn't want to have anything to do with the Nat anymore. Early the next morning, Vina opened the door to go to work. Unexpectedly, the Nat had been waiting outside all night. She fearfully turned and ran. The Nat immediately chased after her and blocked Vina, sincerely apologizing to her. Vina suppressed her emotions, saying that she had endured enough of those insults, begging the Nat not to come looking for her again. After saying that, she left the scene. The Nat returned home lifelessly. His head was throbbing like it was about to explode. He didn't know how to make it up to Vina. Thanat's mother saw his appearance. Without even guessing, she knew where he had gone. She immediately flew into a rage, slapping her son, hoping he would wake up. If he continued to be so stubborn, he would lose the position of chairman sooner or later. Then she said that if he chose to be with Vina, she would cut off their relationship. Immediately, the Nat sat down helplessly on the sofa. On one side was the mother he respected, and on the other side was the girl he loved. After thinking it over and over, he finally chose the latter. Then he called Vina. However, because she was insulted by his mother, she was so angry that she directly hung up the phone. The Nat saw that Vina wasn't answering, so he went to her workplace and happened to see her preparing to leave work. When she saw him, Vina hurriedly hid. The Nat searched around but couldn't find her. He didn't understand that Vina didn't want to see him at this time. He could only loudly express his love for her. He promised that in the future, no matter what happened, he would definitely wait for her to accept his feelings. Vina, hiding in a corner, heard these words and was already crying silently. After he left, she leaned helplessly against the stairs. At this time, her best friend came to find her and hurriedly comforted Vina. Seeing Vina so heartbroken, her best friend decided to help her this one time. She immediately took Vina to eat and got her drunk, then called the Nat. When she woke up, Vina found herself already in his car. The Nat then apologized to her again for his mother's outrageous actions, saying that his family was organizing a party tomorrow and that he had prepared himself to give up everything, hoping that Vina could come. Back home, Vina was extremely confused as she recalled what he said. She didn't know if she should go or not. The next day, the Nat waited and waited but didn't see Vina. He sent text messages nonstop. After she read them, she suddenly recalled the moments she spent with him. So after hesitating for a while, she still decided to go to the party. Then, she called Ray because now the only person who could help her was him. On the other side, the Nat was extremely sad, thinking that she had chosen to give up. Just when the Nat was disappointed, Vina slowly walked up the stairs with Ray. Thanat's eyes were immediately drawn to her. This time, he didn't care about the position of director or anything else. He directly walked to Vina's side, hugged her in front of all the reporters, then gave her a kiss, then left the hall hand in hand. There were a lot of reporters there at the time, so as expected, the story of him confessing his love for Vina was quickly published. Even the story of him playing games with the trainer was revealed. This made the Nat extremely annoyed. Just at this moment, Vina ran over and said that her school had been confiscated. She begged him to help her get the school back. The Nat, hearing this, comforted Vina, saying that this wasn't a problem. That night, thunder suddenly rumbled in the sky. The Nat was afraid of thunder, so he instinctively hugged Vina. Suddenly, a lot of colorful fireflies appeared around the two of them. Waiting until the thunder disappeared, the Nat and Vina came to their senses. However, they had swapped souls again. The two were worried and didn't know what to do when Thanat's mother appeared. She immediately cursed at Vina, saying that she was truly shameless, still brazenly coming to the party and taking her son away. Facing his mother's repeated irrationality, the Nat really couldn't take it anymore. He borrowed Vina's body to make it clear to her that she wanted to be with her son. If he wasn't with her, he would be so heartbroken he would ascend to heaven. If she didn't want to lose her precious son, then don't stop them in the future. After saying that, he also signaled to Vina to respond, and she also timidly agreed. These words made Thanat's mother furious. She didn't believe that she couldn't separate these two people. And then she left. Because their bodies had been swapped again, the two had to adapt to each other's lives. To make the acting look more realistic, the Nat kept teaching Veena his handwriting. She also started guiding him to practice difficult exercises, because the famous director would be coming to Bangkok. He would personally interview at that time. So Veena told the Nat that he must pass with her body, otherwise, all the previous hard work would be for nothing. Very soon, the day of the interview arrived. On this side, Veena had just finished a meeting and was about to take the elevator downstairs. Unexpectedly, something went wrong halfway down. She hurriedly called Thanat's assistant, telling him to come save her quickly. At this time, the Nat was anxiously waiting outside. Seeing that Veena hadn't arrived, he was very worried and went to a secluded place to call her. Unexpectedly, he was knocked to the ground by a passerby, and with a sound like thunder, the souls of the two returned. At first, Veena was extremely happy to see herself appear at the interview. At this moment, she suddenly remembered the Nat being trapped in the elevator, knowing that he suffered from claustrophobia and couldn't stay there for too long, so she immediately ran back to the company. On the other hand, the Nat sat down heavily under the elevator. He felt more and more short of breath, and unable to bear it, he fainted. At this time, the Nat had a dream. In it, he came to a dilapidated room and saw the man in firefighter gear. Just as he was about to step forward to take a closer look at his face, the man happened to turn his head. The Nat was so frightened that he immediately woke up. At that time, the assistant had led people in and hurriedly took him to the hospital. At this time, Veena raced crazily towards it. When she saw the Nat lying on the bed, she couldn't stop blaming herself. Heartbroken, she held Thanat's hand and kept apologizing to him. At this time, the Nat gradually woke up, however. The first question he asked was how Veena's interview went. Hearing her say that she had given up her dream interview to run and find him, he directly pulled out the 4 in his hand, wanting to take her there. But Veena pushed him back onto the bed. She said that the interview had long ended. The Nat was extremely saddened by Veena's disappointed expression. When he got home, he went to find Ray, telling him to use some of his connections in the entertainment industry to contact that famous director to help Veena. The next day, Veena went to the film crew, apologizing to her colleagues for the personal issues that made everyone train with her for so long. However, her colleagues didn't blame her. They only regretted that she missed such a good opportunity. Veena was feeling extremely sad. At this moment, the Nat excitedly ran in, saying that the director was coming soon, and he had agreed to give her another chance. When Veena met and saw him bring the director, she was so touched that she hugged him tightly, thanking him for trying so hard for her. After the interview, Veena knew that she had passed smoothly and was as happy as a child. The Nat saw that she had finally realized her dream and decided to celebrate. Veena then said that she wanted to share this good news with her father first and led him to his grave. At this time, Thanat's mother came to Veena's father's grave to worship and happened to meet Veena. Veena was very confused, asking her what she came here for. To make Veena leave her son, Thanat's mother revealed the truth. 10 years ago, Veena's father sacrificed himself in a fire while on duty, actually because he was rescuing the Nat, who was trapped. Veena was stunned. It turned out that her father's death was related to the Nat. The Nat asked his mother why he didn't know this. She said that he had suffered a head injury at the time, so he had temporarily lost his memory. Veena, hearing this, only felt short of breath and couldn't possibly face the Nat as if nothing had happened. The Nat was about to go over to comfort her, but Veena pushed him away. She said that she didn't want to see him anymore, because every time she saw him, she remembered her deceased father. Returning home, seeing the things that the Nat had bought before, she angrily threw everything onto the ground. Veena hugged her father's picture, sobbing amidst the ruins. She blamed the heavens for teasing her like this. So, she made up her mind to leave the Nat. So the next day, she took her luggage to the film crew, wholeheartedly training for the upcoming film. However, her life was full of Thanat's image, from home to the training ground. Only then did Veena realize that she couldn't leave him at all. Early the next morning, Veena went to the film set to film. This was a rare opportunity for her, so she had to try her best. But unexpectedly, a motorcyclist suddenly rushed out from the side of the road. Veena instinctively wanted to avoid him, but crashed into the large truck next to her. When everyone found her, Veena was lying unconscious on the ground. Everyone hurriedly took her to the hospital for emergency treatment. The Nat found out about this and hurriedly ran over. Without saying a word, he wanted to rush into the operating room. Veena's colleagues hurriedly stopped him, Not long after, the doctor came out of the operating room, telling them to prepare themselves. Veena might never wake up and become a vegetable. The Nat, hearing this, was both heartbroken and angry, and couldn't help but vent his anger on Veena's boss, questioning him why he didn't protect Veena properly. The boss was also very self-reproachful. Back then, Veena's father entrusted his daughter to him, hoping that he would take better care of Veena. If something happened to Veena, he didn't know how he would face Veena's father. Although Veena had passed the critical period, she was still unconscious. For the Nat, this feeling was like being trapped in an elevator, so desperate and helpless that he was about to suffocate. He stayed by Veena's side for many days, not leaving for even half a step. Ray felt a bit unbearable and advised his cousin to go home, shower, and rest for a while. The Nat didn't want to leave Veena for even a step. Ray told his cousin to calm down. If he exhausted himself like this, who would take care of Veena? The Nat saw the news about the unusual weather back home. He remembered the previous soul swaps, which seemed to happen on rainy and stormy days. Could this be a signal for a soul swap? A bold idea gradually emerged in Thanat's mind. If the two could swap souls again, Veena might wake up. He then went to Veena's hospital room, gently stroking her furrowed brow, and saying that he would definitely wake her up. He hoped she wouldn't blame him. After saying that, he took advantage of the nurse's inattention and secretly took Veena away. He then drove onto the highway, his eyes firm and resolute, and drove straight towards the black clouds. When Veena woke up again, she was back in the hospital room. Hearing the person next to her call her the Nat, Veena felt that something was wrong. She hurriedly went to Thanat's hospital room, seeing herself lying unconscious on the bed. Only then did she realize how stupid the Nat had been. Veena slumped to the ground, tears streaming down her face, so heartbroken that she was about to suffocate. Veena stepped forward and hugged the Nat, questioning him why he did this without asking her. At this time, Thanat's mother appeared in the hospital room. Seeing her son's stubborn appearance, she couldn't help but blame him for being too selfish, not thinking about her. For Veena, he could even throw away his life. If someone hadn't found them on the highway in time, who knows what would have happened? Veena, hearing these words, only felt her heart ache and couldn't say anything. This time, Thanat's mother was truly frightened. She didn't expect her son to love Veena this much. To ensure his safety, she couldn't bear to force her son to leave Veena anymore. Veena returned to Thanat's house. She saw a small box on his bedside table. Inside were all the memories of the two of them. Each item was very precious. Veena cried as she looked at them. Inside there was also a phone. In the phone was a video that the Nat had filmed for her. At this time, Veena's tears streamed down non-stop. Veena then decided to swap identities, returning life to him. She then went to the hospital and pushed the Nat out of the hospital room, unexpectedly being discovered by the medical staff. Seeing this, Veena hurriedly ran away. As a result, the hallway lights were too dark, and she and the Nat both fell to the ground and lost consciousness. Fortunately, both of them woke up, but the Nat had forgotten all his memories of Veena. After being discharged from the hospital, he always had a question in his heart. Why did the name Veena occasionally appear in his head? He really wanted to know who she was. With no other choice, the Nat had to tell his secretary to investigate Veena's information. Everything seemed to return to the starting point. The next day, he came to the training ground and was just about to ask Veena if it was convenient to go out and talk when he was surrounded by a group of people and hugged tightly. The Nat felt very confused and asked if he knew these people. The days that followed were like the beginning. The Nat went back to walking the old path. Even with amnesia, he couldn't help but get close to Veena. Today, the Nat went to the airport to go on a business trip. Unexpectedly, the transparent elevator suddenly malfunctioned. The Nat suddenly had a pounding headache. His previous memories came flooding back. 10 years ago, the Nat was trapped in an elevator. Veena's father had used all his strength to push him out of the elevator, while he himself fell into the sea of fire. The Nat vaguely heard Veena's father's last words, which were to take care of Veena in his place. In an instant, the Nat recovered all his memories. He disregarded everything and ran to Veena's side. The two went through many difficulties and finally had a happy ending. The movie ends here. Thank you for watching. If you liked it, please give me a like. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and press the bell to wait for the latest movies.